And now we move on to championship weekend in the National Football League. I know you got multiple layers to the Chiefs and the questions we have. But if it's cool, I want to start with the sentiment of, do you like being the Hollywood Hogan, the heel, the devil? Or do you like when everyone's behind you? Because as predicted, I said, any day now you're going to see that meme where it's like who the country's rooting for, and it's all Buffalo, all Bills, and then they show the little dot in Kansas City where it's like Chiefs. And same with the Commanders, that little dot.
I got to say it for the sake of conversation, to be fair and to explore all angles, as we like to do on the show. All angles here. You're right. Who's rooting for the Chiefs? Mostly Chiefs fans, and that's about it. The rest
Swifties,
of the world,
baby.
Yes, Swifties, and that's a lot, but also people who want to see history. There's a small little nugget, a small portion of people that actually do want to see history be made, and that would be the three-peat for Mahomes. I'm not hating on that, to be honest. Do I want to see it? I'm not saying that's why I'm tuning in, but I wouldn't be mad if I witnessed it. And there's a lot of people that do feel like, hey, man, I want to see him win 3 in a row. That's something that's never been done. I'm rooting for greatness. I'm rooting for history. So we do have to acknowledge that little nugget of people out there that exists.
I just don't feel like I want to give this Chiefs team credit, perhaps because my 49ers were 2-time Super Bowl victims to the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'm probably the wrong guy to ask.
Yeah.
But when I look at the history books and I see the Steel Curtain and some of those great Steelers teams who repeated twice in the 70s, leaning into 1980, could never get 3 in a row. Joe Montana and Bill Walsh in their prime.
Dude, when you're doing stuff that Brady couldn't do, you're just paving your own way into the history books. And I respect that so much. When people find their own little path.
That's what I was just in the middle of saying.
Yeah.
When I saw, as a kid, Joe Montana unable to accomplish the three-peat. Before I was born, hearing stories of the Steel Curtain and seeing highlights of those great Steelers teams, couldn't get it done. The Green Bay Packers, when the Super Bowl started, they couldn't get 3 in a row. 3 in a row always seemed impossible. Tom Brady and Belichick in their prime years of their 6.
And there's so much relying on that, Rich, because it's like, hey, to ever try to do this again, we got to win 2 more in a row. This is the extra added pressure they have on themselves to make it happen. Like, if we're going to be in the history books, we have to win now. I'm not going to win 2 more in a row and then go for it again. It's now or never when it comes to this. And it also takes that pressure off of him of trying to surpass Brady or match Brady as far as Super Bowls.
Because now he has an accolade that no one else has.
There it is. So there's so much riding on this accomplishment, you know? So the fact that he could do something that no one's ever done before, there's a lot to be said about that, and I think there's a lot of people that respect it.
They do, but I feel like I'm in the majority here where you could say it's jealousy, because there is a little bit of that where I don't want to see these guys do something my team or someone else couldn't do.
You want to see it be stopped. I get it.
It's like, we get it. The Chiefs
it's a boring storyline for a lot of people. Like, all right, the Chiefs won. Whoopity-doo!
I feel like we exhausted the Taylor Swift storyline last year. We exhausted the Kansas City got their first ever one back in 2020. We exhausted the, Mahomes got 2. Oh, then he got 3. Now 3 in a row, making 4 total. 4 total, you're putting him now in the category of Montana, Bradshaw. 4 is insane.
Yeah, it's elite territory.
We've exhausted the refs.
Yeah, so
you know what else you've exhausted too? It's the feeling of we speculated as fans, as radio hosts, for another season, only to figure out and find out that the Chiefs won again. All this speculation, all this, man, you think the Bills are going to do it? Man, the Ravens are the team. Man, those Commanders do Jaden Daniels. All that wasted breath, all that hot air.
All the Sam Darnold talk, the Lions.
Just to find out they win again. It's disheartening a little bit. I get it.
It's what I think Rich and I both agree. We like those moments that change history and why we hate repeat matchups so much because this is just, it feels like it's a waste.
Now, the repeat matchup I'd be okay with because it's so long ago. Bills, Washington, if you remember, that was a Super Bowl in the early 90s when we were kids. And it's so far removed. We're 30-plus years from that, so I'm not looking at the Bills logo and the Commanders logo and saying, been there. But if I see Eagles, Chiefs, you're right. There's a sense of, like, So we just spent the last months of our lives having all these fun, silly, great conversations about football to just end up here?
Like, how obvious. How weak. Unless, of course, that's who you're rooting for or what you're rooting for. So basically, again, now that we speculate, we get to your phone calls on being the villain, because that's kind of who the Chiefs are becoming.
You know when it's not your team and you're watching...
Do you lean into that or not?
You know when you're watching a game and it's not your team, it's very rare that you get emotional, caught up, excited about someone else's team winning. And I feel that I would have a little of those emotions if Buffalo won. If Buffalo beat Kansas City and goes on to win the Super Bowl, and you see those Bills Mafia fans being all happy and Josh Allen hoisting the Lombardi trophy, I feel like that's a moment where, as not a fan of that team, I'd be like, it's good for Josh Allen. If Mahomes wins, you're going to be like, ugh. You're going to go pour yourself another drink and be like, all right, are we watching the post game? What are we doing?
Yeah, but again, you're coming from a jaded perspective of being a 49ers fan, because when you think about it, it doesn't make that much sense what you're rooting for. You're rooting for a different team to win it as opposed to history. What has more of an impact when all is said and done? The historical moment. Don't we talk about Jordan winning 3? We don't talk about anything else really other than that. That's really the story, right?
We were too young, and I mean not that young. I mean in the 90s, I was in junior high and high school. I don't remember the national sentiment because we were kids and we weren't thinking this way. Were there a lot of people rooting for Jordan to be shut down, or was he the anomaly that people just loved him so much that, like, I wonder if we were doing the show now, back then,
I don't think people were bored of Jordan.
People in New York were rooting for him to be shut down.
But other than the hatred from the Knicks fans, like, was the national sentiment like, come on, Utah Jazz, you got this one? Like, I don't feel like it was.
No, it wasn't.
Come on, Trailblazers, Clyde the Glide, come on. I don't feel like
and
that.
I also think it depends on how old you were, too, because if you were a kid, you just loved Jordan no matter what. Yeah. But if you were an adult and you were a Knicks fan, like you said, yeah, you're like, screw them and their three-peat. But my point is, the history is way more impactful than, I don't know, the Bills winning it or something like that, right?
Except for their Super Bowl history, they have history on the line, too, because of their 4 Super Bowl losses.
Of course. Again, that's the heartwarming story. Yeah. That's almost the question in itself. Do you want to see a team like the Bills finally get over that hump? And I want to see him say, and to all to Scott Norwood, if you're there listening, man.
To me, that
Jim
would
Kelly,
be the
Bills
better.
Fans, we want it for you guys. I would be happy for them. Is that better than 3 in a row?
Yeah, to me, that would be the better NFL history to come out of this.
So,
I wish younger players acknowledged some of those sadder moments from the previous generations. I really do.
So, question 1 of our dive into the Chiefs and the NFL. Question number 1. As a fan, do you like when everyone's behind you? Or do you like when your team and you appear to be, like I said, the villain, the heel, the Hollywood Hogan, the devil? As the quote goes, darling or devil, hero or heel?
I can answer that, the first question, as a fan, because I'm a Yankees fan. And I lived all through the 90s and early 2000s being hated on, and I loved every second of it. And it was that feeling of you hate me because you ain't me sort of vibe as a fan. You got that extra strut and confidence. And I didn't mind people hating on me. What, you hate on us because we're awesome? That's great. That's a great feeling to have.
I'm the devil.
Yeah, I'm the man and you're a loser. That's kind of how you feel about it.
I think playing the role of heel is sort of fun. Think back to the old school wrestling days. I used to like Mr. Perfect and Ravishing Rick Rude, and when Macho Man was a bad guy. Like, there's something that's fun about rooting for the villain. Like when everyone was against your Yankees, or Danny G as a Lakers fan, I'm sure there were plenty of times where people were like, "Oh, the Lakers again," and you're like, "Yo, you ain't us," I don't know. So the alternative is, I know they're out now, but before the Lions got eliminated, do you think did a Lions fan like the sentiment that, well, if my team doesn't win, I really want the Lions to pull it out? Do you want that sympathy backing or no?
I think the fans don't mind playing the villain here, but I wonder how the players feel about it. I wonder how Mahomes feels about being, the most likable guy in the NFL to people now rooting against him. Does that just give him extra fuel to the fire?
It's an interesting one, right?